Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about Mark Meadows, the silent man in the shadows, whom we've heard basically nothing about since he first gave a cache of emails to the January 6th committee, then abruptly stopped cooperating. The committee referred him for contempt charges to the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice declined to file them, probably because they decided he had at least a colorable argument of executive privilege. Not that it was right necessarily, but enough to not go the big route of a criminal case and trying to prove a mental state beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe he had a decent argument. And since then, his outline is in every picture, but he himself isn't. But it's been clear from early on, this guy, A, knows more than anybody, and B, is probably as culpable as anybody except only the former president. So recall, Meadows is everywhere between the election and January 6th. January 6th itself, he's the only guy who's with Trump all day. He's fielding these frantic calls from members of Congress or family members. You've got to stop it. You've got to stop it. And he is, talking out of both sides of his mouth, but unable to do anything. But he's not simply a yes man. He is totally facilitates the big lie from the time of the election. He personally goes down to Georgia and is involved in that whole fraud where they try to pull the wool over Georgia's eyes and get them to declare a fraud. He's got all kinds of conspiratorial phone calls with different members of Congress in December and January. And he is just, leading up to and especially January 6th itself. Nobody knows more. I'm not sure anyone knows half as much. So it's always been the burning question, where is he and what's going on? And out of nowhere, we learned yesterday that Mark Meadows has testified, and he's testified about both cases because he also has a glancing role in Mar-a-Lago, including in being present when Trump is told you can't just, take stuff, or you can't just, declassify with a wave of your hand, etc. He's big, really big, really, really big. And the fact that he's testified, I think, is about the worst piece of news for Trump in what's been a couple months of horrendous news for him. Because look, if he's testified, well, we know he's testified. So one of two things has happened. He has an excellent lawyer, George Terwilliger, former Deputy Attorney General in the Department of Justice. And he's the fact that things have been so quiet and no one's known anything about Meadows and he hasn't been in the public eye, that's a testament to Terwilliger doing his job well, as opposed to the sort of brassy, heavy-handed, ham-handed Trump lawyers who are just, stomping all over things. You want, when you're representing a target, to, the less said, the better. So one of two things, it seems clear, have happened. First is he has been charged with a crime and has agreed to plead guilty and cooperate. That would be the first thing you would think, because the second thing would be a little bit unusual and quite a triumph for Terwilliger. The second would be he's got flat out immunity. That is, he told that he told the DOJ that he would, if called to testify, he'd assert his Fifth Amendment rights, as he would have to, and as he's totally entitled to do. And the department would have decided that we will go to a court, enter an order of immunity. Once that order is entered, you have to testify, because it's no longer the case that you have Fifth Amendment rights, because the words you say, the testimony won't tend to incriminate you because they've promised that it won't. It's just for the use of the testimony you give. If you lie about it, you're still on the hook. Or you're on the hook for perjury. If they find out other things independently, you're still on the hook. But you have immunity for your testimony, and that means you are forced to testify. Now, normally, the culture of DOJ and the guidelines of DOJ for cooperating defendants would say he is too high up to give immunity to. You need to charge him with some crime, and maybe they insisted on it. But it's possible that Terwilliger persuaded them that, you guys can't make the case against Trump without Meadows. So we'll take our chances. Go ahead and charge him, but he's not cooperating unless you give him immunity. And they did. That's right now, that's the $32,000 question. The $64,000 question was answered yesterday. Where is he? Will he testify against him? And he will, it looks like. Now, he's only a little bit of help on the Mar-a-Lago stuff. This is an important point to make. He has some things to add, but where he is huge is the whole cluster of January 6th crimes. So that really suggests that we've separated those two and seen in the January 6th crimes the real possibility that they're so sort of one of a kind and messy and political. Would the department have the stomach to also go after that? The strong indication here is yes. That's the reason you want the testimony from Meadows, which, as I say, they've now gotten. So from what we know, it seems to me that where January 6th comes around, especially the actual day, Meadows can bury Trump. And I think, if he's given testimony, he's smart enough to have given full and truthful testimony. So this is really foreboding for Trump, not as much for Mar-a-Lago, but for the January 6th cases, which will, once he's charged in Mar-a-Lago, the focus may well, especially Smith's. I think the Mar-a-Lago case won't be handled by Smith personally, probably, but by deputies. But he'll turn his focus to January 6th, and that, in some ways, is the most serious of all, right? A president who may have committed insurrection or really just terrible crimes against the republic. So Mark Meadows has the receipts, and Team Trump has to be really petrified of what he can say. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.